Hello, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't know who I am, my name is Shook. I make NBA DFS videos, prize picks content. They all get posted on this subreddit right here. It's called DFS Sports. I'll have it linked down below. People post other content here. I make updates with all the news that comes out throughout the day. Why aren't you loading? There we go. You can ask me questions about the slate, pretty much anything you need. I'll have this linked down below. And if you ever need to get a hold of me privately, you can get a hold of me on Twitter. Right here is my handle. All right, let's get into my lineup from tonight, my core from tonight. I don't know what contests I'm in. I'm always in the 40 at least. So I guess that's the one I feel the most confident I'll be in. So yeah, not going to be a good night for me. I think we'll just move right along. Core stay were Paul George. I was shocked that nobody wanted James Harden or Paul George stay. I absolutely love both. So he was a core play. Jalen Johnson core play. Cam Whitmore core play. Luka Doncic core play. Rounded out my lineup with this. And yeah, let's move right along into the slate. If you're looking for more DFS content, prize picks content, cores for all that good stuff, night slate content, showdown cores, I'll have my Discord link down below. But let's get into the slate. I love this slate. This slate looks like one of the best slates of the season, in my opinion. I am fascinated with this slate. There are a ton of good spots, ton of potential smashes. This slate, I really like it. So let's get into it. First off, phenomenal matchup here for Portland. I'm going to fly right through this 10-game slate, so we'll go quickly. Not going to do too much analysis. Phenomenal matchup here for Portland. I think DeAndre looks really good. His usage right now is absolutely absurd. Still got everyone out. Jeremy Grant out. Brogdon out. Simon's out. Phenomenal matchup. Should play big minutes. Portland ran an 8-man rotation last game. I expect that to continue here. Ayton looks great. Scoot, Banton, I think are both really solid plays. Now, if one's more higher owned than the other, I'll just go to the other option, right? But I think both are decent options. I think they look the same to me personally. So if one's projecting to be better than the other, just go to the other option, right? But I think both look really solid and phenomenal matchup. Jabari Walker played 40 minutes last game. I believe he got a little bit of backup fiber. I'm not entirely sure. I know Duop Reith played a little bit, but yeah, I mean, if he's going to play over 40 minutes, we know he's a good point per minute guy, about 0.85, 0.9. So if he's going to get 40 minutes, yeah, he's going to be a really solid play at 5.5K. Chris Murray, Ryan Rupert are playable, but we'll go over some value on the Memphis side a little bit later. That looks phenomenal. But yeah, I think Chris Murray, Rupert are firmly in play for value if you do need some extra salary relief. Let's move on to Washington. We could have some value here. So if everyone's out here, you're probably going to get Jordan Poole, Kispert, Vucevic, Champagny, and Baldwin in the starting lineup, or they could go like Gill over Baldwin, I guess, or they can always go Gill over Vucevic, but I highly doubt that. But with that being said, I mean, if everyone's out here, Jordan Poole going to lead the way offensively, do everything for this team. He'd have to play big minutes. He'd be their number one option. He'd look good. Kispert, probably going to play over 40 minutes. He has a ceiling. He'd be a solid option in the mid-range. Jared Butler would probably play over 20 minutes off the bench. He'd be a playable value. Vucevic, I would really like at 4.2K. To value, Champagny, Baldwin would both be decent options if they both start. And then if Holmes is in, I like Holmes quite a bit for value. And then I don't know if I'm too high on the main guys. They'd still be playable in a good spot, but I wouldn't be as high on them. And I probably wouldn't get to the value outside of like Holmes, maybe like a Baldwin if he starts. All right, OKC. So randomly last game when we all played him here, they just played 28 minutes in a competitive game. But this game, they were on pace for mid-30s minutes until the game blew out. So it's going to be up to you on what you want to decide to do here. If you think they get similar run to what they did last game, then sure. Giddey, Chet Holmgren both look really solid in the mid-range. With no SGA, with no Jalen, they're going to see a significant usage bump. So if you think they do play similar minutes, I think both look like really solid options at their price points. Now, they're not as good of plays as they have been. Now they're priced up to like 7.5K, 7.3K, but they're still pretty good options. If they're low owned, even better. Lou Dort is playable, but we have much better value. If you want to go to like an Aaron Wiggins, he has a ceiling. It's fine. He's probably the value I would target on this team if I were to play anyone. But like I said, I prefer, Portland, possibly some Washington, Memphis, etc., possibly some Detroit, etc. I think are all better plays. But yeah, Wiggins, he'd be the guy I'd go to if you were targeting anyone on the Thunder for value. I think he's probably going to start, probably play the most minutes, but we've seen this before. where you buy into OKC and you absolutely get trolled. All right, big news here. Miles Turner, if he's in, I don't like much here. I think Halliburton's okay. It's just a really bad matchup going up against OKC. I mean, Miles Turner's in a good spot, but I'd rather just spend the extra $1,500 for DeAndre Ayton. Nesmith, she'll play big minutes. Fine. I don't know if I get to the value, but if Miles Turner is out, you should get Jalen Smith, Isaiah Jackson splitting these center minutes. Both would be decent point per dollar plays. I honestly would prefer Jackson just because he's cheaper, but both really, really good elite fantasy point per minute guys. Both will be firmly in play. And yeah, I think I'd prefer Jackson just because he's a bit cheaper, but both would be decent options. Orlando, don't like much here. It's a good matchup. If you want to pay 0.5K for Paolo Banchero, should play big minutes. I think it's decent. I mean, looking at the price points, looking at people in the mid-range, like you have a lot of good mid-range plays. Like you have DeAndre Ayton. I think Paolo definitely looks solid. What else? CJ McCollum possibly with no Zion. Like I said, Ayton, etc. But yeah, if you're going like above 8.5K, below 9K, yeah, I think Paolo is definitely a solid play and a really good matchup going up against Charlotte. Franz is playable, but I personally prefer Paolo. I'm not going to pay 5.5K for Jalen Suggs. He's playable at least, but I'll look elsewhere. I'm not going to prioritize him, but he is playable. Wonder Card Jr. is a decent option at center at 5.3K. Should play high 20s minutes. Good point per minute guy in a really good spot, so I don't mind him. And then I'm not going to get to this value. We just have so much better value that we're about to go over. Moving on to Charlotte, everyone's probable. I am not going to play anyone on this team going up against Orlando in an absolute treacherous matchup. I mean, Nick Richards, if he's out, sure, Grant Williams is fine, but he's priced right now with everyone in. So this team is just basically just a cross-off for me. Moving on to Sacramento, back-to-back here for them. Sabonis Fox should see significant minutes. That's basically all the interest I have here in a tough matchup going up against Boston. I think Sabonis is an okay spend up, same with Fox, but I'm not going to prioritize any of these guys. Harrison Barnes, I believe, got benched today, so you saw an increased minutes for like Trey Lyles, but even then, we just have so much better value. I'd rather just not play him. Keon Ellis, no thank you at that price point. Harrison Barnes is overpriced. Moving on to Boston, Jaylen Brown, Derek White. If they're both out, you're going to see more significant minutes for Peyton Pritchard, Sam Hauser. But if they're both in, so I think Tatum's good spend up at 9.7K. Does seem a bit too cheap in a good matchup here going up against Sacramento. And you guys know I'm always high on Porzingis and GPPs just because absolutely nobody wants to click on his name. I don't care what matchup he's in. He's just such a good producer, good shot blocker, can rack up blocks. He just has such an insane ceiling and he's not priced up. And he's always like sub 5% owned. So I'm intrigued here by Porzingis. I don't know if I get to much else if they're both in, but if both are out, I mean, I think Tatum looks great at 9.7K. I would really, really like him as a spend up. Porzingis would be solid. Drew Holiday would be priced right. And then I'd like the value here. Like Al Horford would be playable. And then you see, they could start Pritch, they could start Hauser. We'll see. I think it'll probably be Hauser, but both would get a lot more run. Both would be decent options. Moving on to Detroit, Cade Cunningham is out. Simone Fontecchio is out. Should get a starting lineup of Marcus Sasser, Jaden Ivey, Tosan, Troy Brown, and Duran. So I was a bit disappointed to see that Duran only played 28 minutes in a close game last game, but that doesn't mean he's out of play for me. It's just such a good matchup. He's going to be matched up with Trey Jamison tomorrow. So if you think he gets his like normal 33 to 34 minutes, he could absolutely nuke the slate. So I am intrigued here by Jalen Duran and GPPs. Ivy, Sasser, I think are both good options. I think Sasser's probably a bit easier to get to just because the price point is cheaper. Both good point per minute guys. Both are going to have a ton more usage with Cade off of the court. I think both look solid. I think I like Sasser a bit more point per dollar. And then, I mean, Metu's consistently seen high 20s minutes. We know he's a really good point per minute guy. I don't mind him as a contrarian option. I think it's solid. This Malachi Flynn game, just unbelievable. I mean, he'll get run, but that definitely feels like chasing. Tosan's playable, but like I said, we have much better value to go over, especially on this team. I don't know how you don't play a ton of Memphis tomorrow going up against Troy. I think this team looks phenomenal. They look phenomenal. I think starting lineup's probably going to be what? Pippen, Goodwin, Laravia, Gigi Jackson, Trey Jamison, or they can go with like one of the guards like Pippen and their 10-day guy that they signed, Pereira. I guess they could go. But either way, I mean, I absolutely love Gigi Jackson. I think he's one of the best plays in the slate. With everyone out, he is going to dominate the usage here. Good point per minute guy that's going to chuck when he's out there. I love him. Both the guards look phenomenal. Pippen, Goodwin, they're going to have to play a ton. They look great. Laravia looks like a really, really good value. I love him. Lamar Stevens off the bench. He's a really good value. He's going to have to play a ton. Jameson is a really, really good value. I love him. He's going to probably start at the 5. Pereira is firmly in play. Whether he comes off the bench or start, I lean he comes off the bench, but he could start. He's firmly in play. Don't play Drew. He is not with the team, but this team looks phenomenal. 8 bodies. They're going to have an 8-man rotation tomorrow. They look phenomenal. Moving on to the Knicks. Not a good spot here going up against Chicago. I don't like much. If you want to go to like a Brunson, that's fine. If you want to play like a Hart, a Dante, because they're playing insane minutes, that's fine. McBride's finally priced right. If Mitch Robinson's out on a back-to-back, sure, you could consider Hartenstein, but yeah, they're all priced right. Treacherous matchup here for Chicago. Basically a cross-off for me. I don't like anything here. DeMar's playable, Vooch, White, they're all playable, but they're all priced right. Let's keep it moving. Moving on to the Spurs. So we could have some value here as well. Keep an eye on Keldon. I would expect him to be out here, but I would expect Sandro Mamukelashvili to move in the starting lineup. He started last second half when Cedi Osman went down. So if they go with that starting lineup of Trey Jones, Victor Wembanyama, Branham, Julian, and Sandro, I actually think these guys are firmly in play. I know everyone's probably going to jam that Memphis value and possibly some other value, but don't forget about this Spurs value. They're going to have to play their main guys quite a bit. We know Sandro's a really good point per minute guy. If he starts, he looks like a really good value. If he comes off the bench, he's still solid. Schimpeni, Branham, they're playing huge minutes. Both of them are decent options. I like them quite a bit. Trey Jones is playable. Victor is a solid spend up. We're going to have a ton of value. If you want to take the raw points, that's fine. I think I'd rather spend up for Luka. I would say Victor's probably getting to the price point to where he should be, but he's still firmly in play. And I think that's it. I don't know if I touch anyone else here. Let's move on to the Pels. We could have some more smash plays here. Zion, if he's in. I'm still high on Zion. I'm still high on CJ in a really good spot. I still think they're both really solid options. Trey Murphy's playable, but getting to the price point to where he should be. That's basically it. Now, if Zion's out, there's going to be a lot to like here. CJ, I would love at 8.1K. Trey Murphy would look really solid. Herb Jones would be playable. Najee Marshall, I'd expect to start. He'd be a really solid value. You possibly see more minutes for like Dyson Daniels, possibly. The bigs, they might have to play more of like Jonas or Nance because they do play Zion at the 5 some. They'd be intriguing, especially like a Jonas Valanciunas. Yeah, I think that's it. They'll probably dust off like a JRE. Just disgusting. Toronto, nothing here. Quickly, RJ Barrett in. They're going to be limited. I don't think I get to anyone else. So we can kind of just fly right through this. Milwaukee, keep an eye on Giannis. Keep an eye on Dame. We could have even more really good plays here. If everyone's out, Pat Connaughton, I think is a really solid value. Good stat sheet stuffer would legit have triple-double upside. He'd look good. Jay Crowder would be playable. Chris Middleton would look amazing at 7.5K. Bobby Portis would look great at 6.6K. Brooke Lopez would be firmly in play. Beasley, playable. Now, if everyone's in, I love Giannis up at the top at 12K. Dame would be fine, but I prefer Giannis. Just a good spot here going up against Toronto. I would love him. Middleton's playable. Bobby Portis would be overpriced. I don't know if I touch the value. Now, if we get Dame out, Giannis in, and Bevan, I love Giannis. He'd be one of the best spend-ups on the slate. Chris Middleton would be playable. Pat Bev, if he plays, sure. If he's out, Pat Connaughton, I think is decent value, and I think that's it. Moving on to Miami, basically a cross-off for me personally. I don't have too much interest here. Bam's fine, but I'd rather play Ayton for cheaper. Butler's priced right. Terry Rozier is overpriced. The value, just so much other value to go to. Moving on to Houston, back-to-back here for them. Good spot here for Jalen Green. I mean, I don't think a ton of people are going to play Jalen Green tomorrow, but Miami does give up a ton of three-point shooting to volume shooters, and that's what Jalen Green does. He shoots a ton. I don't think a ton of people are going to want to play Jalen Green tomorrow at this price point, so I really like Jalen Green tomorrow in GPPs. Definitely prefer him to Fred. Fred's playable. Amen's overpriced. Not going to get to Whitmore. Jabari, just there for me. Warriors, don't love much. Wiggins, I guess Wiggins got hurt. And we also have, is Kuminga out or in? I would assume he's questionable. If everyone's in, I don't think I get to much. Steph's okay for GPPs. I mean, if they're both out, Chris Paul at 5'2", I guess is fine. Pause, but definitely better value. We'll see what they do with the starting lineup as well. Trace will start, but he's priced right. We'll see. Possibly some value opening up here. If they go like, Chris Paul or like Podziemski potentially. Dallas, Luka, I think is a good spend up. I think Lively's still out. Yeah, he's going to be out for 2 weeks. Luka, if you want to just take the raw points, he's always the best spend up on the slate. I personally would prefer Giannis if he has the team to himself, but I think Luka looks great. Kyrie's priced right. Gaffer just there for me. PJ Washington's overpriced. I don't know if I get this value. All right, that's going to be it. We have a phenomenal slate, guys. Hopefully, we navigate it well. I will always make updates on Reddit. I will do my best. Hopefully, you guys had a good night tonight, and I'll talk to y'all in the next video.